This horrifying incident happened to a friend of mine named Taryn. That afternoon, I asked my mom to go to the field with my friends. Since it was during our summer holiday, my mom agreed to let me go with them under the condition that I had to return early for dinner. I instantly rushed outside with my friends. Taryn was waiting for me at the door. No sooner had I seen him than I asked what game we would play for the afternoon. Taryn told me that the group intended to go for frog hunting and pick mangoes from a tree near to an abandoned house. Taryn's mention of the abandoned house instantly scared me, as our parents forbid us to go to it. But Taryn didn't show a fearful expression on his face, as he told me he usually hunted frog around that area. Having finished his sentence, he ran away, leaving me standing in bewilderment. I hurriedly caught up with Taryn. As we made it to the place, we saw other kids hunting frogs in the bushes. However, oddly, there was not a single frog to be seen. Taryn told them to go further, as it would increase their chances of catching one. Then the boy courageously went to the direction of the house, to our amazement. He used a stick to check on the ground and then carefully took a step forwards. At that time, I could see him heading to the abandoned house. We ignored Taryn and went to another area, playing mock combat. Before I left, I told Karen not to go near the abandoned house since it was a dangerous place. However, I was sure that he wouldn't have the courage to go near it. Taryn was annoyed to hear me joking on him being a scaredy cat. He said there was nothing in this world that would scare him. My friends and I bursted out laughing loudly as we heard his remark. Then we challenged him to go inside the house. Taryn confidently told us that he would get inside the house and flip it upside down in our presence. Now all of us felt slightly scared. Was he really out of his mind? In order to prove his bravery, Taryn went near the house on his own. I slowly realized that my jokes had gone too far. Things had become more serious than I thought they would be. I couldn't let him go out like that. So we quickly followed him. Taryn was already at the door. He checked to see whether it was locked or not. Even though he didn't see the lock anywhere, the door was firm and not easy to break. Taryn told us that the door was likely to be locked inside or get rusted, which made it difficult for him to open. He said the house was safe, then told us to come closer and take a look inside. The calmness of Taryn's face made us become less scared as we walked towards the house. As we gazed through the windows, what was inside the house instantly terrified us. There was a pit of snakes slithering on the floor, looking creepy. The snakes were long and scary. They flicked their tongues and hissed at us. The scene appeared before our eyes made us tremble. We couldn't even stand still. Seeing me being fearsome, Taryn quickly made fun of me as revenge for being teased before. Taryn then did something truly crazy as he stuffed straws into a small hole through which the snakes had gotten inside the house. It turned out that he wanted to burn all of the snakes. His face was flushed with excitement as he lit a match and threw it to the straws. Taryn stepped backwards, watching the burn, while the three of us were still in shock. The fire started getting bigger and bigger. Soon enough, the entire house was on fire as black smoke belched out densely. The snakes, unable to tolerate the heat, one by one slided out through the window. One of them wounded its way to Taryn. The boy unfearfully picked up a rock, then hit it to death while looking amusedly. His actions were brutal. All of us were shocked to see him acting like that. That night, as we had already returned home, when it struck midnight, my mom suddenly woke me up as she'd received terrible news. My parents and sister asked me where I'd been to this afternoon, as Taryn had gone crazy. Meanwhile, many villagers were gathering in front of the house. I told my parents and my sister about the incident from the moment we walked to the abandoned house to when Taryn burned it down. My mom and dad decided to go to Taryn's house to inform his parents about the incident. Out of curiosity, I followed them. We saw a crowd gathering outside Taryn's house. There must be something really serious happening to him. I tried to gaze inside his house, then saw something really haunting. Taran had been driven crazy. He held a stick in his hand, then hit it midair constantly, while yelling at something to go away. The boy looked like he had just seen a ghost. His face was terror-stricken. Taran's mom was heartbroken to see her son like that. She tried to stop him. But Taran didn't listen as he hit his mom with a stick in his hand. Those who were presented at the scene couldn't believe their eyes to see Taran hitting his mother. He became more and more aggressive. Now the things that came to his sight were all horror. He saw hundreds of snakes winding their way to him. They all yawned, looking ferociously as if they wanted to eat him alive. The snakes then slithered all the way up his body. In just a few moments, Taran was covered with them. Some even squeezed around his neck that made him breathe raggedly. Taran waved for help. He kept shouting, but people couldn't figure out what he was doing, as he was the only one that underwent hallucinations. A few moments later, from behind the crowd appeared Taran's father and the village chief. As the chief had been told about Taran's situation before, he knew the reason why Taran was acting like that. The man said Taran had killed off sacred snakes that were living in the abandoned house, thus he's being punished. Shortly afterwards, he surrounded Taran in a circle of sand. Taran, standing in the circle, somehow became weak, his limbs weary as he collapsed on the ground. Later the boy was taken to his room. His mom had to stay up all night watching him as he had gone down with fever. His face was filled with sheer horror. It looked like the pit of snakes still haunted him in his dream. I was amazed to see a layer of skin appearing on both Taran's arm and face. It looked like that of a snake. It wasn't until the skin peeled off that Taran was fully recovered from his illness. Ever since that day, Taran had become very fearful and timid. Even a small caterpillar could easily scare him.